If we've learned anything in this pandemic, is that we are dangerously dependent for our pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and equipment on the rest of the world.
That's White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro talking about the need to increase the manufacture of pharmaceutical supplies here in the U.S. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed major shortages in the nation's drug and medical supply chains. A deal Navarro brokered involving Eastman Kodak is now on hold over financial issues, but earlier this year, he was key in awarding a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars to a little-known Virginia company promising to revamp the way medicines are made and distributed. So what is this?
So this is our catalyst lab.
The grand plan to streamline America's pharmaceutical industry was launched at Virginia Commonwealth University's College of Engineering in Richmond.
So these are some of our reactors.
Our tour begins with Dr. Frank Gupton.
So the catalyst would go into the tubes that are inside these heaters.
He oversees this lab where chemists are working on new ways to manufacture medications. And so this is what is going to innovate.
This is part of it.
Phlow is a company trying to bring back the pharmaceutical supply chain to the U.S.
They went to India and China where labor costs were lower.
2 years ago, his business partner, Dr. Eric Edwards, approached Dr. Gupton with a goal: to make affordable generic drugs right here at home.
I was already witnessing massive drug shortages that were plaguing this country. These are essential medicines and their ingredients. That really nagged me, and it was a struggle.
The market is immense. Americans filled the equivalent of 5.8 billion 30-day prescriptions in 2018 alone. But in 2019, the Food and Drug Administration estimated that 80% of active pharmaceutical ingredients and 40% of finished medications were manufactured overseas, mainly in China and India.
This allows you to be able to run these processes continuously.
Phlow's key process, a method called continuous manufacturing. They say it will increase quality control, reduce the risk of counterfeit medications, and provide transparency in labeling.
We're creating an end-to-end manufacturing infrastructure and supply chain right here in the United States, from precursor chemical to active pharmaceutical ingredient to finished drug into a vial or a syringe.
In the 1990s, American companies began to rely on a manufacturing process that utilizes large-scale equipment and cheap labor. This method thrives under relaxed environmental regulations often found overseas. The result? A weakened system here at home. Is the supply chain broken?
Not only is the American medical supply chain broken, the pricing and reimbursement system is broken.
This broken system became apparent in March.
What do we want? PPE!
When the coronavirus pandemic depleted the national stockpile of personal protective equipment and critical medications. Demand for these supplies was global, and it brought overseas imports to a halt. This made Phlow's efforts not just relevant, but critical.
So what I have right now is like it's a syringe filled with my starting material. So we're going to take this and turn it into like a malaria drug.
Developing a new drug typically costs more than $2.5 billion and takes more than a decade. Phlow's founders say their method will reduce both time and expense.
It's all going to be together, streamlining the supply chain, making sure that we have the highest quality that Americans and patients deserve.
Phlow is also looking to bridge the gap between underpriced generics and those higher-priced drugs with a more limited market for children or for rare diseases.
There was no profit in these medicines. We've driven the pricing of some of these generic medicines into the ground. A bottle of Fiji water at an airport costs more than a life-saving vial of medication.
Edwards has been in the business for years and has faced some criticism. Kaleo, the company he co-founded with his twin brother, then left 7 years ago, came under congressional scrutiny after pricing for a popular overdose antidote rose by 600% in 3 years. The company authorized a cheaper and generic drug soon after. How do you meet that skepticism going into a relatively new company with these goals?
I was not involved in any pricing decisions, and I was in charge of innovation. This is all about innovation and teamwork to try to fix a broken pharmaceutical pricing, reimbursement, and distribution system that has left a lot of these generic medicines out of reach for patients.
Phlow's partnership includes Virginia Commonwealth University's Medicines for All Institute, which is backed in part by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Phlow could get even more money from the Trump administration right now, about $350 million. Their contract can be extended to more than $800 million over 10 years. Dana?
Michelle, really interesting. Access, that's what people are looking for, access that they can afford.